Live from Kakariko Village. Broadcast throughout the Retroverse, transmitted to the real world via a maze of wires connecting a Super Nintendo to a Wii, to a Wi-Fi network, and finally to the internet. The Techno Funk Boy presents the Retro Zoo Super Show. Now here are your hosts, Kai and Steven.
Drum, we're 106 miles to the Mushroom Kingdom. We've got a full tank of gas, half a pack of gummy bears. It's dark out. We're wearing sunglasses.
That does not make sense.
Drum, you're supposed to say hit it.
Why would I say it?
Because that's the line. I explained this to you. This is like a thing we're doing.
Is this because Steven is not here?
Of course it's because Steven's not here. Well, what else am I going to do, like the little setup gag with, you're the only one here.
Okay, we can start over.
We can't. Never mind.
I don't even understand what this means. What does gummy bears have to do with going to the Mushroom Kingdom?
Drum, it's a pop culture reference. Okay, that's what it is. It would have been really cool. It was going to be this whole tie-in to the show itself because we're going to be talking about the Runaway Five today, which is based on the Blues Brothers, and that's a paraphrase from the Blues Brothers movie.
I do not believe anyone watched that movie.
And everybody watched that movie. It's a classic.
I do not believe that you are correct in that assessment.
It is such a... I have confidence in our audience that they've seen the Blues Brothers, that they got the reference, even with you messing up. Welcome everybody. I was very excited about this episode. And anyways, this is Kai. You are listening to the Retro Zoo Super Show. Flying solo today. We every once in a while we'll do kind of a little bit of a chill episode, of kind of a cool down episode. We have been running at 1,000 miles per hour lately. I've really actually just been astonished at what we've accomplished lately on the show and what we've been able to pull off. It's been a lot of fun. But we definitely needed a little bit of a break this week, and that does not mean that we're going to skip giving you great content. It does mean, though, that I am going to be flying solo today. That Steven is taking a little bit of a break. I am hoping that I get to speak to him relatively soon about some things that transpired, that transpired between me and Murd, after he adjusted the settings on his murderous killing spree meter, knob thing, whatever. And so I'm definitely hoping that I'll be able to discuss that with them. But in the meantime, we have been We have been kind of running at full speed lately, and it's like, it's like one of those weeks when after last Friday, I just sat back and just kind of went through in my head what all that we had pulled off, because we did the 7-part Dragon Warrior series, which included 3 different interviews, the release of free music based on Dragon Warrior, and then the recreation of the entire Dragon Warrior script as a humorous radio play. And I distinctly remember as we finished that saying, great, that's done. We need a couple of weeks to relax. And instead of doing that, we jumped immediately into the realm, did another interview, and then held a massive race scavenger hunt thing live on the program, and just, had more people on at once than we've ever had before. More things going on at once than we ever had before. And it was an absolute blast. It was an absolute blast. And so we're coming into this episode, and we're certainly not going to put forth any less effort, but it is going to be a little bit of a lower key episode, just to give my poor brain a chance to recover for a little bit. But we have been doing some episodes here and there, gradually over time. We wanted to do some stuff on Earthbound, which is one of my favorite games of all time. It's definitely a remarkable cult classic. It is a genuine masterpiece, and we've been here and there kind of looking at it and taking a look at the music in the game, because the music is remarkable, absolutely remarkable. And so we've been taking a look at the music of the game here or there, just picking out some aspects of it. And today we are going to do a very similar thing, and we are going to be talking about the Runaway Five. And if you haven't played the game, or even if you have, you're in for a treat. This is a really cool aspect of the game. I think it was very inventive, very cool. And so looking forward to digging into that. But in the meantime, some stuff has come up. And this is something else we're going to be doing today. We invited you a couple of weeks ago to go on and rate and review us on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts. And we did get some reviews in. They weren't exactly what I expected, but at the same time, we did get some reviews in, so I really do appreciate you doing that for us. And for those of you who have not, please do jump on and rate and review us. The more of those we get, the more exposure we get. And so really, we really do appreciate that. We have, during the break, a brand new commercial debuting. This is a commercial for ourselves, and so please don't skip that. Half the time we don't even do commercials, but the ones we do run are for us, and so please do check them out. And it's so that we'll hit that during the break. In the meantime, thank you so much for joining us. And for those of you who do check in each and every week, we really do appreciate it. I know that you're here every single week. You never skip. You're here very loyally, waiting to see what we're going to cover next. And we really do appreciate that. We thank you for those of you who have been sharing us with friends. We're trying to spread the word as much as possible, and so totally get connected in and share us with your friends. Jump on Facebook, share our episodes. We really do appreciate that. I've been trying to put more effort into the Twitch channel lately. And this week we started what we hope to be a pretty regular segment. So, if for those of you who did tune into the Twitch channel, we actually recorded last week's episode live on Twitch, and we did upload that onto YouTube, and it's still on Twitch for the time being, and so you can check that out on how we recorded that. But we are continuing that tradition. So some of the guests we had on the show last time were Jeff and Charlotte and Ravenant, and this week we jumped on Twitch again. Jeff and Charlotte were streaming on their end. I was streaming on my end, but this time I actually got to play, and we did some dungeon crawling and had actually a great time. And they did 2 updates while we were streaming, and I'm pretty sure that was intentional. For those of you who are with Rat Labs in the realm, I'm on to you. I'm on to you. That's just. That's really all we have to say about that. But it turned out to be a lot of fun. And we're going to try to do that every Tuesday as much as we can. And sometimes schedules just don't work out for that, but we are going to try to keep that up. And so, twitch.tv/technofunkboy if you haven't caught us on there yet. But we're really trying to get more of a firm schedule on the Twitch channel. That's going to be hard for the next 2 months, but after that we should be able to do more things on a more set schedule. So looking forward to that. But in the meantime, it is this week. This week was the E3 conference. This is the gaming conference that is kind of the big one every year, where a bunch of new stuff gets announced. And while we're not, as a retro gaming podcast, we pay attention, and not all of it really applies to us. I do pay attention, and I'm one of those guys, since I'm really behind on modern gaming. It's one of those things where you kind of look at it and like, whoa, I'm going to enjoy playing that in 5 years, and it'll definitely be 5 years before I get to any of it. But we do pay attention, and a lot of times, there is news that directly pertains to the purview of our show. And so we did send Rangel Robertson out to E3 this year, and we're going to check in with him and see how things went. So Rangel, can you thank you. Can you hear me okay? How are things over there?
Well, Kai, things are doing just fine, and thank you so much. I'm really excited to be covering this event. This is this is the big one. This is the big one, and I'm thrilled to be here to cover this event.
Oh, that's great. There's always a lot of hype and excitement on all the new releases, on what they might show, on what they, a lot of times we'll aware well of what they're going to debut, but it's still exciting to see what we can see in it, and I think that's really, really cool. And so there's always a lot of excitement surrounding this.
Absolutely, yeah. The excitement is palpable. I'm suddenly aware that I might not be using that word right.
No, I think that's right.
Oh, good. I was a little worried there. I try not to tackle words that are too big when I'm live, because you can't think about it and wonder and think maybe that was the right word.
No, I think you're fine. Just about the excitement.
Yeah, the excitement is just it's really big, Kai. You have everybody here, Microsoft and Sony and Nintendo and all the big dogs that are announcing their new games for the year, and everybody's just very, very pumped and ready to see what they have in store.
Yeah. And so, one thing that jumped out to me right away as a retro gaming podcast is the HD remake of the Spyro trilogy.
Yeah, that seems really good.
Yeah, why don't you tell us more about that?
Oh yeah, of course. Well, yeah, the Spyro the Dragon trilogy was a trilogy of games, and they're remaking it, and they seem to be doing a very good job. It seems really neat.
Well, yeah, I mean, from what we can tell, it looks like, what do you think? Like the gameplay is the same, everything's the same, except it's just shiny new graphics.
That's the impression I got.
Okay, but what's the reaction to this? What, are people excited?
I, for one, am thrilled.
All right, well, that's good. Big news is Super Smash Brothers. They are bringing back, basically all the past characters, even Snake from the Metal Gear Solid series.
Yeah, that's big news. That's really great. Smash Brothers. That's always a fan favorite.
Yeah, and so I know a lot of people online is really, really freaked out when they saw Snake there. I don't think that was really expected. Did you get the same impression?
Absolutely, I did. Yeah, I was flipping through Twitter, and that's what's just jumping out to me right away. Is when Snake appeared, it was just like, whoa, there's Snake.
Yeah, well, I mean, what about from the crowd? What are you getting?
Well, I'm mostly looking at these Twitter reactions. That was very good.
Were you there when they announced it?
Well, I saw it. Yeah, I mean, I've been here the whole time.
Ringo, where's here?
What do you mean?
Where are you? Are you at E3?
Well, I'm watching it.
Are you streaming E3?
Well, I thought that would be easier for me to see everything that was really important if I just streamed it.
Ringo, we gave you money to travel there. We got you a hotel room.
Well, yeah, it was really nice of you, but I can do my job, very actually much better with the stream. That way I don't miss anything.
Oh gosh. Okay. Ringo, as much as I hate to admit it, this has been a better report from an event than you've had prior to this. So, I guess there's that.
Well, thank you, Kai.
That wasn't really that much of... Okay. Okay. Well, I think from there, we're just going to kind of move on to our topic of today. But to do that, I need to take you back in time. I need to take you back in time to April 1978. It's a Saturday. I know that because, well, Saturday Night Live is showing. And it's time for the musical guest. But today we're going to do things a little bit differently. It's not going to be the normal musical guest that we might be used to when it comes to Saturday Night Live. No, in this case, even the very announcement of what's about to occur makes it seem like this might be the comedy bit instead of a musical guest. In fact, if you're not sure exactly what's about to happen, the whole intro is gonna leave you confused. But on that night, this was first heard.
Your MC, and we certainly hope that you
After that introduction, Jake and Elwood Blues take stage, being played by John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd. Aykroyd has his wrist handcuffed to a briefcase, and Belushi has the key. He opens it up, and Aykroyd is able to open the briefcase to reveal his harmonica. The two are wearing dark black suits, black ties. They're wearing Homburg hats and Ray-Ban Wayfarer sunglasses. They start off like any other blues soul band might. But then when the music kicks in, they start dancing. And it's not exactly like a dance that we would see from like Sam and Dave back in the day. It's a little more wild, a little more untamed. Very energetic, and not in any small part goofy. Again, we might be wondering, is this a comedy bit? Or is this a musical guest? The presence of Belushi and Aykroyd probably increasing the confusion. But then they start singing. And it's definitely a musical guest. What we didn't know at the time was that Aykroyd and Belushi had spent the last couple of years becoming increasingly obsessed with the blues. They were really getting into the old bands, like Sam and Dave, like John Lee Hooker, like Muddy Waters. Back when, before the onset of electronic music, before things were increasingly moving into electronic format. Back when live shows were just full of life, but energetic, with just the beat pumping and really excellent musicians playing with great old-fashioned songs that made you want to get on your feet. These were big jamming shows, and the two of them began plotting a way to insert themselves into that kind of old-fashioned scene. As time goes on, the Blues Brothers are formed. They bring in all the influences that they love. The R&B, the soul, and the blues. They combine it on stage, and it's fun. It's a lot of fun, which is kind of the point. By the end of that year, they released their debut album. A couple of years later, they had a movie. Guess what? The movie is fun, too. If you haven't seen it, it's just a blast. The Blues Brothers are a hit, and in a way that we didn't expect. When two of our favorites, two of just the funniest actors, comedians of all time, took the stage last night, we expected goofy dancing. We did not expect really good music that would bring us that much joy. But it did. And the legacy of the Blues Brothers lives on today. Of course, John Belushi died a little less than 4 years later. We didn't have him for very long, but the Blues Brothers movie is a certified classic. And their look, their style, just everything about them is so recognizable even today. Now, what in the world does this have to do with video games? Well, I'm glad you asked. We've been doing this series on music from Earthbound. And Earthbound has this very particular flavor to it. Earthbound is, and I've heard it described as the Japanese looking at American culture and putting American culture in a Japanese game. And what comes out is this really weird mishmash of pop culture references that span decades from the 50s and before up through the 70s and 80s, all combined to kind of have this look of Americana that just happens to exist inside of a Japanese role-playing game. And so as goofy as you imagine that being, it's probably a lot goofier, honestly. It is simply a very strange and wild game. A lot of that having to do with the plot itself, but a lot of it to do with how these elements of Americana interact with one another. So in Earthbound, our heroes, who are children, of course, they're looking for a way to get to the next town. They come into a nightclub where the Runaway Five are performing. Now, the whole plot of how this occurs is not overly important for our purposes. The Runaway Five are able to transport the kids to the next town in exchange for some help freeing them from a debt. They do appear actually later in the game as well, having racked up a yet larger debt and having to be freed from that as well. But it's the stage show itself that is really, really notable. In the Japanese version of the game, the two singers of this band are wearing dark suits. They changed that in the American version, probably to try to distance themselves from the obvious parallels to the Blues Brothers. But the obvious parallels to the Blues Brothers remained obvious to anyone watching. This is the Runaway Five, and they are led by two singers who are escorted on stage after an elaborate introduction, much like the introduction we just heard for the Blues Brothers themselves. When the music starts, they begin a very elaborate dance, not quite as energetic as Dan Aykroyd's performance on stage of Saturday Night Live, but kind of all over the place nevertheless. And we're about to listen to exactly what occurred on that stage. But before we do, we should kind of introduce you to the 6 members of the Runaway Five. Yes, I know that's wrong. But the individuals' names are Gorgeous, Lucky, Nice, Okay, Groovy, and Keyboard. The names are switched around between members throughout the game, except Keyboard, who remains the keyboardist the whole time. But the backing band is made up of a keyboardist, drummer, saxophone player, and a bassist. And you're going to hear those distinct sounds in the music. One thing that we're really gonna see when it comes to Earthbound music, and we've seen over and over again, is the distinctiveness of the samples they use. Now, the way the Super Nintendo made music is you didn't record an MP3 and insert it in there. What you did was you gave the Super Nintendo a sound, and then the music itself, in a format called MIDI, told the sound at what pitch to play and how long and when. And so it was this blend of live recordings, which just made a single sound, and then the MIDI ordered those sounds and pieced them together. And so if you wanted a sax sound, you recorded that single note, and then you programmed the MIDI to play the sax part in whatever way you wanted. And even though the games had the capability of each game having its own set of samples, most of the time we find that the games do not have a really wide variety of different sounds they make. Like the soundtracks, and I love the soundtracks, don't get me wrong when I say this, but they seem to go to the same tones. They seem to go to the same types of samples. Earthbound really shook that. And in fact, they dedicated a lot more memory than was normal to those sounds. So much so that they actually had to put extra memory into the cartridge, because the normal amount that would run the whole game was filled just with music. And so they recognized this potential of they're able to make this system sound any way they want it to. And so they're going to do that. And so if you go back to our previous episodes of the different, variety, the electronic type of sounds from the battles, and the different moods set by these different tones and different samples. And this one is going to be very distinct from inside the game in how kind of old fashioned it is, because the rest of the game is very much an electronic soundtrack. It is meant to sound like electronic music, but that's not the style of the Blues Brothers. The Blues Brothers, old-fashioned R&B, old-fashioned soul, old-fashioned blues, and that's exactly what we're going to get. So, we're going to jump to our break. And when we come back, we're going to listen to some of the introduction to the Runaway Five. And we're going to see how the composers of the game kind of captured the style and essence of the Blues Brother and put it into this game. So with that, we're going to jump to our break, and we will be right back. Hey, it's Kai here. We recently finished our latest EP, Quest of the Dragon Warrior. It's an electronic tribute to Dragon Warrior and the amazing music that game gave us. We're really excited about how this music came out, and we want you to have it for free. If you go to technofunkboy.com/Dragon Warrior and sign up for our weekly newsletter, you'll get the songs to download and keep for free forever. That's technofunkboy.com/Dragon Warrior, or check the show notes for a link. Okay, so that is a track called Runaway Five, The Daily Show. And so this is the music that's being played, while the band is being introduced. The two singers are coming out and they are starting their dance. Now you instantly hear that energetic R&B push there. This is a really elaborate introduction for a band that we actually have three different themes going. One that kind of builds things up. One that's much more energetic, that gets, that's designed to kind of get the crowd riled up and ready to go. And then they settle in on a groove. And that's where the song ends up. But this is exactly the sort of introduction that we heard with the Blues Brothers back in 1978. And despite the fact that, the American version of this game changed the colors of the outfit, you just, by looking at these guys, you can see the influence of the Blues Brothers right away. with the hats, the sunglasses, the suits on, just by the mere fact that there are two singers there, this is clearly that little bit of Americana that Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi created on that amazing day back in April of '78 that has infiltrated our culture and become just an immediately recognizable part of it. That is that kind of seeping into the game as yet another thing that the game creators are picking up from when they're taking a look at American culture. Now I want to listen to a couple of more songs. There are I think it ends up being 5 or Runaway 5 songs on the soundtrack itself, and we certainly don't have time today to go through all of them, but a couple of them will be really worthwhile. So the next song we're going to listen to is Runaway Five's Final Performance. Now, I am a huge fan of first of all the movie Get Shorty, but especially of the soundtrack, and it has that kind of that jazz inspired R&B inspired, really energetic type of a soundtrack to it. And this is a tune that I could think can fit right alongside with it. This is the kind of song that you just imagine, some character in a movie that is super cool, super smooth, and just in control of everything, walking by. And this is what's playing because it's simply a groove. It is, and this is a recurring theme in the Runaway Five's music, is that the music itself, has this coolness to it, that these guys are like the Blues Brothers themselves, just ridiculously cool. And the fact that they don't have any money, first of all, it should be an instinct that should kind of, I guess, clue us in that maybe they're not as cool as we think they are. But this is something that they're pulling from the movie itself, the Blues Brothers movie itself. Because in the movie, Jake and Elwood are not depicted like Chili Palmer is in Get Shorty, where they're just, really, on top of everything, in control of all things. In fact, they, are normally on the wrong side of the law. They're usually strapped for cash. But despite these things, the impression you get with them is that they're cool. And that's the same thing that's going on with the Runaway Five. So yeah, they pretty much get a debt wherever they go, and they need this 10-year-old kid to bail them out wherever they go. But at the same time, these are characters who are very cool. And when they get on stage, you feel it. You get that feeling of being a part of something that's very, very smooth, that is just, an exceedingly attractive groove that makes you want to dance, that makes you want to get up and clap your hands. And that is what we're going to hear in the Runaway Five's final performance. Okay, and finally, we're going to listen to one more tune on this. This is Runaway Five, Left the Building. Very similar to the last song in that it really has that old fashioned R&B beat that, the bass line in this particular song is just really driving. It's almost impossible to actually listen to this bass line without picturing a guy wearing sunglasses, wearing an Omberg hat, while playing this, cause it's just that type of style. You're gonna hear the amazing organ, sample that they got for this band very prominently in this song. And even though the tempos of this song and the last song are very, very similar, you're going to notice that this song doesn't have quite the same intensity to it. It doesn't have quite the same sort of drive to it. This one's a little bit more smooth, a little bit more chill to it. And I really enjoy this. Is actually, one of my favorite pieces on the soundtrack itself. And, we're gonna listen to that right now, and I hope you enjoy. And so that's it. There are a couple more Runaway Five songs on the soundtrack itself, but I think that if you, I think you could goodness, I think you can hear the similarities between what the Blues Brothers were doing and what the Runaway Five is doing, even without seeing them. And seeing them really emphasizes the point that this is directly influenced. What we are trying to do is put the Blues Brothers on stage under a different name and really capture that moment in the American culture, in this game, like they do with so many other little aspects of American culture that they have put into this game and mixed it with everything else. So, it's a very cool part of the game. It's not really what I was expecting when I walked into that club for the first time, but when I first played this game, but at the same time, it's such a striking scene and is so immediately recognizable. And with that music, it's so much fun. That's the thing with these tunes is they're so much fun. And that's exactly why I like the Blues Brothers. And it's exactly like, why I like soundtracks like the Get Shorty soundtrack. That's just so filled with the same sort of thing. This, jazz, R&B, blues mix that's just, full of energy, really gets you going, really driving, and just a ton of fun. And so I really hope you enjoyed that. And, Drum.
Yes, Kai.
Do we have those reviews?
They are right here.
Oh, good. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So we really do appreciate all of you who took the time to rate and review us. We did want to read some of these. This is great. The first one is by Murd. Okay. 1 star. Murd writes, you told me to eviscerate the rats and then come back, but you were not there. I spent all day looking for you. You never call, you never write. Stephen turned down the murder dial and turned up the simulate human emotions dial. So now I'm sad waiting for you. But I don't simulate the feeling that you care or want to be around me. It makes me simulate rage. Okay. Next one is from Timmy. Oh, our friend Timmy gave us 3 stars. I wanted to give the show 5 stars because I really, really, really love it a lot, and the guys help me with games a whole lot. But they also let me guest star in their Dragon Warrior radio play, and I guess that makes me part of the team, so I put 3 stars so I wouldn't appear biased. But they really are the best and deserve 5. Timmy. Okay, where's the 5 star? 2 stars. Susie. Don't be fooled. There are no animals in this zoo. Fake news. It's a morning zoo format. That's where the zoo comes from. It's a morning zoo show. Like on, never mind. JD is da bomb. DABOMM. Love the show, guys. The humor and nostalgia is great. I'm anxiously downloading the episode every week, trying to figure out what happened with Steven while he was in the bookstore, when things will come to a head with Murd and all that. It's wild that there is this whole little soap opera going on just in the background, building to something amazing and important, almost like you are waiting for some sort of anniversary episode or milestone, maybe like episode 50. In order to spring some crazy plot point on us. But seriously, why can't you say Mega Man in front of Drum?
Mega Man.
Oh crap.
Mega Man must die. Mega Man must die. Mega Man must die. Mega Man must die.
Drum, don't. Oh, Drum. And Drum just ran through the door. And that is why we don't mention Mega Man around Drum. So, that's going to be it, guys. I've got to go find Drum. Thank you so much for joining us. We really do appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in. We will be hopefully back next Friday. I've got to go tackle a robot. So, we will see you then.
The Retro Zoo Super Show is brought to you by the Techno Funk Boy. Follow us on Twitter at Techno Funk Boy, on Facebook at the Techno Funk Boy, and sign up for our email list at technofunkboy.com. Also look for us on Spotify, iTunes, and Amazon for music. If you are so inclined, please leave us a 5-star rating and review on your favorite podcast catcher. If you are not so inclined, you are obviously some sort of villain trying to conquer the world. Unowned music and gameplay clips are used for educational and critical purposes. Thank you for listening, keep gaming, and once you have responsibilities that need to be done at this time, then you can game later.